Today we do have a really special class because we're bringing three of my friends in who are now in Europe, and they are part of our Afghan team. And you met one already, Maliha, talking about refugees, being a refugee. But permanent refugee has a certain connotation to it, and so I thought, okay, let's give it a different title and call it a permanent displacement. And if we can go to the next slide, I just want to show you, I don't usually show a kind of a graph like this. Three of you might have to turn around, but with what are in the orange dots, I just want to kind of try to define refugee a little bit so you understand what we're talking about, because you can't just decide. Someone can't decide they're a refugee, or a state can't decide that some group is a refugee. But through the UN, I mean, you have to be afraid something. You have to have a well-founded fear and be at high risk, at a risk of experiencing persecution to one's body in particular, and not have protection, right? Because you could maybe be at risk of experiencing some kind of persecution, but you would be protected anyway. And so therefore, it would be difficult to make the claim that you would be a refugee, right? And you need to be outside of one's own country. You can't be a refugee inside of one's country. If that's the case, you're internally displaced. But it's a different piece, and so you have to be outside your country. And there has to be like something upon which you are being persecuted. And oftentimes, it's race and sexual orientation, your ethnicity, your cultural group, or it could be your political opinion. At the end of 2020, there were 82,000 forcibly displaced people in the world that the UNHCR had identified, and about 26 million refugees, meaning people who are outside of their country, who are at high risk of being persecuted, who were without legal protections or any kind of protection, and it met at some different levels some of the statuses, and so then you get 26 million people. You got to decide, what are we going to do with this large population of people? The U.S., by the way, I want to be clear, we're at the all-time low in terms of the numbers of refugees who've been coming into the United States. So in 2020, we only had 3,219 people in 2020 who were admitted into the United States as refugees. And you can see that, we've shifted. We were at a high in 1980 of 207,000. But, so be thinking about the fact that, what do we owe? Now, mind you, in 2021, that went up a lot because of what has happened in Afghanistan. A lot of times we have fear of things that we don't understand. And, this issue of immigration and internally displaced peoples and refugee status, it happens to be something that's kind of close at some level to my own experience, because I was in the first refugee community in my young life. I was 26 years old, and it was a community in Costa Rica, and another community the next summer in Nicaragua. And I met people who are refugees. And then throughout my life, I've had the opportunity to meet other people who are internally displaced or refugees. And then people become real. They're not just folks like, so here, go to the next slide. These are people who are in a displaced persons camp. These are all Syrians, and who were displaced because of the war in Syria. And like you can look at them and you can say, wow, they're people here. It's just this massive human beings, and that's how you're going to see it. And until you sit down and you realize that each one of these people is an actual individual with a life, with an experience. And, it changes things, right? It just changes how you see them and what you see. And it doesn't mean that therefore, you would run out and say, oh my God, let me change my mind, and every single human being who is a refugee should be brought into my country or whatever, right? It doesn't mean that. But what it means is that you start to see these issues differently when you have an up-close an upfront personal experience of them. So my wife and I took some students to Greece a few years ago, and in this area where we were in Greece, there was a camp in which there lived refugees from Syria. And so some of them are in this photo, and we met them, right? We went to the camp and we met them, and we wanted to introduce our students to the issues, and we spent a day, and and then we did some dialogues with them, but they really sitting down with them and talking and playing with their kids, and just hearing their stories. And so now let's move forward to where we are today, and I can show you another photo. This is one of our team meetings, and we were in New Delhi in 2017, and this is our Afghan team. We had our team meeting, and we met many times. We met in Dubai, we met in Delhi, 3 different times. We met in Mumbai, we met in lots of different places, and we met in Europe, in Brussels. I mean, these are friends. These are friends, and so it's an up-close personal view of what these issues are. All of these issues that we talk about in this class they matter to individual human beings. Here's a larger group here. So this is a larger team that includes other Afghans who were studying in New Delhi and were then brought into our week-long workshop meeting training sessions, right? And so these are just awesome human beings. Afghanistan, when you think about Afghanistan, you think about what's the first thing that comes to mind, and a lot of it, what might come to mind is like war and poverty and violence and one thing after another. But, this is a shopping mall in Kabul, right? I mean, this is not, obviously Afghanistan is a very poor country, but there are also places where you would feel quite right at home here. When I was in Iraq, it's a similar kind of thing, everywhere I go, right? I mean, it's different when I'm in like Doha or Dubai or Kuwait City or something, but this is like, this is a place, these are human beings. This is a place where y'all could get along quite well. If we dropped you off there, you'd be fine. When the Taliban took over, people who were in danger, lots of people fled to the airport in Kabul, and including members of our team, because members of our team were in great danger as a result of having worked with us and having had years of conversation with Penn State students, and being a project that was sponsored by NATO and sponsored by Penn State and connected to SOC 119 and all of this connection here. And we worked really hard behind the scenes to say, listen, we got to extract you out of there. Like now your lives are in danger. So you've been getting death threats and so on, but now it's real. There's no one there to protect you. And so this is Maliha right here. So she made it through the other side, right? What happened was, just to tell you, essentially, people are just surrounding the airport to try to get into the airport. And then these are where all the soldiers were. So there were American soldiers and Dutch soldiers, Italian soldiers, French, Belgium, etc. And you had to get somehow singled out here. Someone had to see you to know there's tens of thousands of Afghans trying to get into that airport, to get out of Afghanistan. But the soldiers don't know who's going to get in and who they should let in. So you had to have all these kind of signals and ways of doing it. And so, but this is a photo of Maliha, who you met already. You're going to meet her today. Like she on the other side, right? Everyone's trying to go, and they're only going to get a few people in. So like our job, we spent so much time trying to figure out how can we get them into the airport, and then at some level it becomes really a matter of life and death. This is Mr. Rashidi, who you're going to meet today, and so for him to get to the Dutch, the special signal was put an orange screen on your phone. And don't tell anybody. You can't tell everyone this, because when the Dutch soldiers see that you have an orange screen on your phone, they're going to know that you are supposed to be in the airport, and they're going to try to get you somehow and get you in. And so here he is, like with his daughter, and so he made it. This is Rafi Nadiri. He is my partner. He's a collaborator. He was a co-investigator on this project that I did. This is Rafi with his wife, Roman, and 2 daughters, Yasemin and Argwan. And Rafi has been in danger for many years as a result of his work with us and with human rights. And in fact, a couple of years ago, we took donations and bought a protective vest because his colleagues were being murdered by the Taliban. And we said, look, there's nothing we can do really, but we'll buy a protective vest on behalf of Social 119. It's the very least we can do. And we didn't buy the vest for him. We bought the vest for Roman, Argwan, and Yasemin. Because little girls should not lose their father, who's in such a tragic way. And he's my friend. And we barely got him out of Afghanistan, and the Taliban were looking for him actively, and they would have absolutely killed him. And this is a picture of him when they landed in the airport in Europe. And if he hadn't gotten out, he almost surely would not be alive. And he's my friend. You know, he's been in Social 119 many times, sitting at this table talking. This is real.